start by asking you about a fund that you are now raising, the Vision Fund. It's supposed to be a fund of $100 billion?
Yes.
Now, that would be the biggest fund ever raised. So when you told people you were going to raise a $100 billion fund, did they tell you you were a little crazy?
Well, some people said.
You had a meeting with a man who was the Deputy Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who's now the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And as I understand the story, you went in and in 1 hour you convinced him to invest $45 billion.
No, it's not true.
Okay.
45 minutes, $45 billion.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I apologize. In other words,
So
if you had had...
$1 billion per minute.
What could you have said that was that persuasive to get $45 billion in one meeting?
Well, actually, I said, you came to Tokyo as the first time. I wanna give you a gift. I wanna give you a Masa gift, the Tokyo gift, $1 trillion gift. And he opened up his eyes and said, okay, now it's interesting.
All right.
So I woke up him and said, here is how we can give you I can give you $1 trillion gift. You invest $100 billion to my fund, I give you $1 trillion.
But what is it that you told people? What was the vision that you actually gave them?
So one vision, which is singularity. Singularity is the concept that the computing power, computers' artificial intelligence surpass mankind's brains.
The singularity is the concept. The word means that is the point at which a computer becomes smarter than a human brain.
Yes. Today already, computer is smarter than mankind for chess or Go or weather forecast. To some expert systems, computer is already smarter. But in 30 years, most of the subject that we are thinking, they will be smarter than us.
You did not grow up in Tokyo. You grew up in a relatively small town, is that right?
Yes.
In Japan?
Yeah, in the southern part.
In the southern part of Japan. So at one point it is said that you were very interested in meeting the head of McDonald's in
McDonald's, Japan.
Why were you interested in meeting the head of McDonald's? Did you like McDonald's food, or you just, what was it?
No, he wrote a book, and that book became the bestseller. I was so impressed and said, oh my God, this is great. And the guy who wrote about it must be great.
So how old were you when you wanted to meet him?
16.
16. So you managed to get a meeting with him.
I called his assistant, and long distance call. Back then it was so expensive. I made almost 100 calls, 60 calls. And say, this is my name, I'm a student, and could you ask him to share me some time? And could you ask him? And she said, oh, I will try, but he's not going to meet with a student. I said, well, don't decide by yourself. Let him decide.
Okay.
So I spoke with the assistant, different assistants so many times, and they don't give me the right answer. So I said, okay, this is a waste of my telephone bill. So I flew into Tokyo, and I said, I came because the phone call becoming more expensive than air ticket.
So what happened?
And I said, well, tell him exactly the way I said. You don't have to look at me. You don't have to talk to me. You can keep on working, whatever you're doing. I just want to see his face for 3 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm not bothering him. I'm so impressed and respect him. I want to see him. And if you tell him that I'm not going to bother him, time is money, he says, I'm not going to damage his life, she actually asked. And he said, okay. Actually, he spent 15 minutes with me, talking face to face.
And he gave you some advice, which was to learn.
Yeah, I asked him, what business should I do? Computer. That's the one. If I were you, at your age, at this time of the, this is, don't look at the past industry, look at the future industry. That's the one, computer industry, that's the one you should focus. If I were you, that's the one. So I said, wow, great.
Okay, so he gave you that advice. So you're number one in your class, and then you go to University of California at Berkeley.
Yes.
But when you were there, I understand you were not being a student so much, you were doing business on the side.
Well, I was a good student. But I said, 5 minutes I would allow other than study. I have to make money. I want to earn $10,000 per month, and I will allow myself, 5 minutes a day. So I asked my friends, isn't it a good job that I can earn $10,000 in 5 minutes a day? But my friend said, you're crazy, it's impossible, nothing like that. Do you want to sell drug? So no, I don't want to do that. So I said, okay, what is the best, most efficient use of my time? It's invention. It's invention, and I have to file patent. If I get the patent, 5 minutes, if I focus, I can come some idea. I can make some idea. So I set alarm clock 5 o'clock, 5 minutes. And tick. In 5 minutes I said, come, invention, come, come, right? So I did that.
And it worked.
It worked.
You invented a machine that helped people translate languages?
Yeah, that one was the electronic dictionary. The first electronic dictionary, many students use electronic dictionary. The first one ever made was by myself.
First electric dictionary.
Yes.
And you sold it to Sharp?
To Sharp.
And you made a lot of money.
Yeah, $1.7 million.
So what did you do with $1.7 million then?
Well, I used to start SoftBank.
Okay, so did you move back?
I did one more project. I made another 1.5 million. So I made 3.2 million in 18 months. So that is better than $10,000 per month.
Right.
I told that to my friend. Look, I got $3.2 million, and I kept working only 5 minutes a day, as I promised you. But
then after you graduated and you made these successful inventions, you moved back to Japan. Is that right? Why did you move back to Japan? Not that it's not a great place to move back to, but you're in Silicon Valley area. Why not stay there?
I created a company, and my employees asked me to stay, but I said, no. I promised to my mother when I decided to come study in the States. She was crying in the airport, and I said, no, don't cry, Mom. After I graduate from the school, I come back. I promise. She said, no, you don't come back. This is the forever, farewell. No, I promise you, don't worry, I promise you. So I kept my word.
All right, so you moved back to Japan, and then you start a company called SoftBank. What was SoftBank's purpose? What kind of business were you in?
So that was the beginning of the time of the personal computer got started. So, but there's hardware, not enough software. So I aggregate all kinds of software from the small software houses. And I wholesale to the PC stores. So it's like a bank, the software's bank. It's not the money bank. The software wholesaling, storing in my warehouse. So it's like a concept.
So it was very successful. SoftBank stock is going up. And then you decide at some point to start investing. One of the investments you made is considered by many people to be the most successful investment in the history of mankind. You invested roughly $20 million in Alibaba, and at the time it went public, it was worth roughly $90 billion. So $20 million to $90 billion is a return of about 4,500%. Now, Jack Ma is a very distinguished individual now one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. What is it that made you feel this was worth putting in $20 million?
Well, he had no business plan and zero revenue. Employees, maybe 35, 40 employees. But his eyes was very strong eyes, strong, shining eyes. I could tell from the way he talk, the way he look at, he has a charisma, he has a leadership. So his business model was wrong. It's the way he talk, the way he can bring young Chinese people following him.
Before Yahoo was so famous, you made an early investment in it, which was spectacularly successful. How did you hear of Yahoo?
Yeah, Yahoo US was still private, 15 employees, and I convinced Jerry Yan to take $100 million of our investment. So at the time we negotiated, we agreed they grew from 15 to 35 people, 35 people. And we invest $100 million to own 35%, and actually went IPO and made a great return. And at the same time, I convinced him to start joint venture, board of Yahoo Japan, where we put $1.2 million, they put $0.8 million, $2 million startup capital. We own 60%.
Now, let's talk about one big mistake you made overall. Obviously, you're very successful in almost everything you've touched, but you were making a lot of internet investments around the turn of the century, around year 2000, 1999, 2001. The market went down in the tech crash, and it is said that you personally lost $70 billion of net worth, the greatest loss that any human being has ever suffered financially. So how did you feel losing $70 billion of net worth?
1 year before that, actually, my net worth, personal net worth, was increasing $10 billion per week. For 3 days, I became richer than Bill Gates.
Wow. Did that upset him, or?
No, before I told to anybody else, our stock started crashing.
Okay.
So in 6 months after that, our share price went down 99%. So we almost went bankrupt. And somehow I survived.
You rebuilt your business. And among the things you did was you bought some very well-known companies. So you bought Vodafone's mobile telephone business in Japan.
At that time, I said, now is the time to go next stage, which is the internet will become mobile internet. So I had to either get the license from the government for the spectrum or acquire Vodafone Japan. And first I applied for the license to the government, and the government said, no, there is no more spectrum. So I actually sued the government. And, for 1 year, big fight. But then the Vodafone Japan became available. $20 billion. I had $2 billion, so $18 billion short.
So where'd you get the money?
So I convinced the bank, that the Vodafone Japan, I'm going to turn around and become successful and become great cash flow. Believe me and lend me money.
And they did.
They did.
And it turned out to be very successful. And recently, you did the biggest investment you've ever made in a company called ARM, ARM, which is a semiconductor manufacturer based in London. Why did you spend $31 billion buying a semiconductor manufacturer when many people think that that's not the future?
It's actually $34 billion.
34.
Yeah. It's not the manufacturer, it's a design house. They design all the chipset. They have 99% market share for any smartphone that you have in your pocket. ARM has 99% market share, right? In next 20 years, they're gonna ship 1 trillion chips, designed for 1 trillion chips. So I said, this is the company. This is, nobody can live on the earth anymore without chip. Chip is everywhere, in the car, in your refrigerator, everywhere. So if chip is something that everybody needs, and if there is one company has 90% market share, there must be a value. They're not monetizing well enough, but if I own it, we can monetize much better. So that's my belief. So I think the company is going to be more valuable than Google.
So let me ask you.
It's not available. It's a private company now.